Hey everybody, David Guido here, founder and CEO, Chief Encouragement Officer at DRG Performance Solutions. So this week, as I shoot this video, as I write this blog, as I get this content out into the public space, we're in the second half now of the summer of 2016, and it's challenging. There's some things going on. Politics, center stage with the conventions and the official naming of the political or the presidential nominees. Black lives matter, cops' lives matter, all lives matter. We the people are angry, and we the people are bitter, and we the people are divisive. And there's a lot of reasons assigned to that. There's blame, there's fault assigned to that. Some of it may be more true than others, I don't know. What we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about a common thread that runs through the bitter, runs through the anger, runs through the divisive. And that is the judgment of other people. And how quick we are to judge, and how quick we are to label. You know, have you ever felt, or do you feel right now frustrated, quickly frustrated, by the words of others, the actions of others, whether it's a person or a group, and do you feel like you're labeling, maybe quicker than you ever have before? You know, Merriam-Webster's, I'm bringing this up right now, Merriam-Webster's, I like that when it was just Webster's, all these mergers. Merriam-Webster's defines judging as follows: to form an opinion about someone or something, to form an opinion about through careful weighing of evidence and testing of premises. My question is, are we carefully weighing the evidence or testing the premises these days before we label, before we reach our conclusions? And if you've been there, or you're there now, or you are feeling frustrated, or you are feeling that you're quick to label, if you feel like you're not weighing the evidence or testing the premises, I get it. I've been there. I was angry and bitter, so angry and so bitter for so long, and judged everything, judged everyone, judged every group, had a label for so many people. It was so wrong, but that's what it was. And I worked really hard to get past that. But it's hard right now, harder than it's ever been, because there's so much happening, right? There's so much negativity, there's so much anger, there's so much bitterness. What I do for a living, part of what I do is I research. So I'm reading articles all the time, and sometimes those articles can weigh you down. I check out social media, and the posts and the vile and the mean and the harsh and the ugly comments, the vulgar comments that are made, they can bring you down really quickly, and they can snap you right back into that labeling and judging and bitterness mode. But through it all, through the long journey to become less judgmental, through those momentary lapses now where it just gets to be too much, and I see myself slipping back, I've found three things that I remind myself. Three things that happen when I judge. Three things that happen when all of us judge that I don't want to happen. And then I found and discovered that there were three things that I can do and that I can fall back on that take me out of the judgment mode, that take me out of the labeling mode. And those are the things we're going to talk about. So what are the three things? What happens when we judge, when we label? Well, the first thing that I discovered is that when we're judging somebody, we're not defining them. Ever. We're defining us. We're defining ourselves. When we judge somebody for their physical appearance, we're defining how we see ourselves. We don't like the way we look, or we feel insecure about the way we look, so we're going to judge somebody else in an attempt to feel better about ourselves. When we judge somebody's hateful words or somebody's hateful actions or a group's hateful words or a group's hateful actions, we know inherently that we're capable of that, or that we've done that, or that we have similar thoughts about a group, and we know it's wrong. And we're defining how we see things. We're not defining them. You know, when we see somebody driving like crazy, as an example, you know, they're driving down the road and they're driving like a maniac, and they're speeding and they're cutting people off and they're doing all this stuff. And then what happens when we get to work? You know, what happens when we get home after work? We're like, you should have seen that person, and they are that kind of person, and they're that, and they're this, and they're that, and they're that. And we label them, we judge them, and we label them. But we're defining ourselves, because we know that we're capable of that. We may have even driven like that ourselves that same day, right? We all can drive like crazy at times. We're defining ourselves. We're not defining them. When we see somebody doing something in the parenting world that we don't agree with, or that we think is wrong, we judge them and we label them as bad parents or as a certain kind of parent. We're defining ourselves because we know we've made mistakes. Or we don't feel good about the job we're doing as a parent. We feel insecure. We feel less. And so judging somebody else and knocking them down makes us feel better. But it's not defining them. It's not defining them in any way, shape, or form. You know, and if you're saying, well, wait a minute, you know, these people do these things, you know, because there's so many other examples. We could be here all day with examples, right? And if you're saying, well, wait a minute, David, you know, but I watched them do something. I watched them say something, whether it was a person or a group, and it was wrong. Therefore, see, that's where we have to draw the line. See, we have to draw the line at the therefore. Because we don't really know them. We don't really understand them. We don't know what it's like to be them. All we're really doing is defining who we are, because we're the only one we know. We're defining us because we're the only one we know. And that actually leads to the second discovery I made. What happens when we judge? What happens when we judge? The second thing is we have bad, negative, defeating relationships because we're not seeking to understand. See, when we're judging and we're labeling people, we are assigning something to somebody that we don't understand. We don't know anything about them. There are people out there who are not dark-skinned. They've never been dark-skinned. They never will be dark-skinned. They have no earthly clue what it means to be dark-skinned, what that entails, what that means you go through, what types of trials and tribulations that creates, what kind of stresses that creates. Nothing about what it's like to be dark-skinned. There are people out there who are judging dark-skinned people and dark-skinned groups, and they have no earthly clue what it means to be dark-skinned. There are people out there who have never been a cop, never will be a cop, have no earthly clue what it is to be a cop, have no idea what trials and tribulations and stresses cops go through, what it means to be a cop in 2016, yet they judge and label cops. There's people out there that judge their coworkers' actions and words, their family, their friends, and they've never been that person. In the history of their life, they've never been that person. You know who they've been? 100% of the time, they've been themselves. And when we don't seek to understand what that person or what that group is going through, then we have no idea what they're going through. And then we judge them and we label them. We did not seek to understand them. And when we do not seek to understand somebody, it is impossible to have a positive relationship with them. It is impossible to have a powerful, uplifting, positive, strong bond that not only benefits the people involved, but benefits the greater good. The third thing that happens when we judge is we strip ourselves of our positivity and we sap ourselves of our energy and our desire. You can't go out there furious and angry and labeling people and judging people and saying that this person is that and that group is that, and then be positive. And then be out there going, wow, this is a great... Think of all the anger and the bitterness that's out there right now. Because we're judging people, we're labeling people, we're too busy concerned with why everybody's doing everything and how what type of negative pigeonhole we can put them in. And then our energy and our desire disappear. And we lose time, we waste time. We have all this time that we could be doing great and wonderful things, and we go to bed at the end of the day and we've spent 3 hours on Facebook or other social media making negative, judgmental, labeling comments. And we've lost time, and we have no energy, and we have no hope. You know, there's people out there that are like, I give up because of what's happening with that group or that person or that party. If they keep doing that, if we keep allowing that, if they keep having a voice, if they keep using their voice that way, we have no hope. Are you saying those things? Are you hearing those things? What that is your positivity, your energy, and your desire gone. And that's the third thing that happens. So when we judge, when we label, we are defining ourselves in the way that we see ourselves. Number one. Number two, we're creating an environment of bad relationships, horrible relationships, because we're not seeking to understand the other side. And then it becomes about doing what's right. It becomes about being right instead of doing what's right. And the third thing that happens when we judge is that we lose our energy, we lose our desire, and we lose our positivity. But in addition to that, I found that there's a lot of hope. I found that there's a lot of potential if we do these three things I'm about to say. So we got those three things that happen, but we want to eliminate that because we don't want that environment, right? We don't want an environment where we're defining ourselves in a bad way. We don't want an environment where we have to pull people down to feel better about ourselves. We don't want an environment with horrible relationships where we don't understand anybody. And we certainly don't want an environment where we feel like there's no hope and where our energy and our desire are gone and our positivity is gone. We don't want that. So what do? There's three things I found that work every time. Three things you can do immediately, you can do right now. And the first is that qualities list, that victories list. See yourself the way you should. You know, we've talked about this in other blogs. Have you written out the quality list? You've got this incredibly large number of qualities about you. Have you listed them out on paper? Is it the first thing you see in the morning and the last thing you see before you go to bed? Your awesome gifts, your talent, not braggadocious, not arrogant. With humility, understand that you're gifted, that you're blessed, that you're talented, that you're awesome. Are you seeing yourself that way? Is the first thing you see every morning, the last thing you see every night before you go to bed, the great qualities about you? Have you written out your victories? Your jobs, the jobs you've got, the promotions you've earned, the raises that have been given to you, the awards you've won. I'm so excited. The awards you've won, the kids you've raised, the kindness that you've shown. Have you written out the victories? Are you reading that victories list on an ongoing and regular basis? Have you added to your victories list? Because every day, every week, every month, you have new victories. Are you focused on how awesome you are? Because here's what happens. When you're judging and labeling to pull people down to feel better about yourself because you're defining yourself in a negative way without the proper self-worth, without the proper confidence, what happens, right? How bad is that? How bad do we feel afterwards? Because we know inherently it's wrong. But when we see ourselves as the beautiful, awesome people that we are, and we're in tune and in touch with all of the great qualities we've got and all of the victories we've had, and our self-confidence skyrockets and our self-worth skyrockets, then what? Then we don't label other people. We don't judge other people. Then we go looking to understand. Then we go looking to lift up. Then we go looking to find solutions for the better good. We don't go looking to pull people down to feel better about ourselves. So the first thing, absolutely, you can do it right away. If you haven't already done it, get that list of qualities out. and get that list of victories out and look at it every day. The second thing is to seek to understand. Have you ever sat down with somebody you disagree with? Have you ever sat down with somebody that you don't understand, that you think is doing something or that disagrees with you, and ask them, get their views, understand where their views are coming from? Have you ever done that? When you seek to understand, you stop trying to be right, and you look to do what's right, and you look for what's best for all, even where there's disagreement. When you've done number one and you feel good about yourself and you're confident in your self-worth and your self-confidence are as high as they can be, it's then we're not looking to one up. We're looking to reach out and say, we see things differently. Let me understand your view. Let me understand where you're coming from. Let me understand your background. Let me understand the trials and tribulations and the stresses that you have that have created your mindset, your thoughts, your opinions. And let's work it out for the betterment of all, for the betterment of society, for the betterment of our relationship, instead of one-upping and trying to be right. Seek to understand, ask questions, research, allow people to explain where they're coming from, and then come to a middle ground. You can't do that without number one, but if you do number one, then you can do number two, right? And the third thing is to be a good finder. Once you've done number one, and once you have those qualities, and once you have those victories, and once you've done number two, and you're in that mindset of seeking to understand and asking people their views and asking them to explain where they're coming from so you can meet at a common ground for the betterment of all, then you can be a good finder, because here's the reality. In virtually every single situation, in virtually every single solitary person, there is good. It may be suppressed by anger, it may be suppressed by abuse, it may be suppressed by trials and tribulations and stresses, it may be suppressed by the media, it may be suppressed by family, it may be suppressed by circumstances. Virtually every person and virtually every group, good can be found. Are you looking for the good? When you look for the good, you're not focused on the bad that you would be quick to judge or quick to label. You're not focused on the mistakes of the other person. You're not focused on the things you disagree with the other person. When you focus on the good, now you're coming together. So disagreeing with people, disagreeing with groups, seeing things differently isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's necessary. Can you imagine a society where everybody agreed and everybody saw things the exact same way? We'd be like, was that a good robot? We'd be like robots, just kind of, right? Creativity is required, but creativity requires no judging and no labeling. When we're angry and bitter and divisive, and when we are judging other people, we're contributing to the anger, the bitterness, and the divisiveness of this country. Do not mistake that. When you judge and you label, you're contributing to the problem. But your creativity soars when you feel good about yourself and your self-worth and your self-confidence is there, and you're seeking to understand other people, and you're appreciating and embracing the differences in everybody, and you're looking to find a common ground for the betterment of all and not just your own selfish desires. And when you're finding the good in people, your creativity to find solutions explode. Creativity that does not exist when there's bitterness and anger and divisiveness. It doesn't mean that you approve of what everybody else is doing. Just because you're not judging somebody doesn't mean you approve, because there are some things that are just black and white, legally, illegally, just from a moral base. There are some things that everybody would agree are right or wrong. There's some things that we believe are right or wrong that others would disagree with us. And we don't have to compromise those values, and we shouldn't, by not judging. That's not what it's about. But forming an opinion without, where did it go? Without careful weighing of evidence and testing of premises. Forming an opinion without those things is really just defining who you are and how you see yourself, not them. And it really is creating bad relations, both for yourself and for the greater good. And it really is sapping you of your energy. It's sapping you of your desire. It's sapping you of your positivity. And on the other hand, your anger and your bitterness grow exponentially. Yet, if you are in touch with your qualities, if you're in touch with your victories, if you're in touch with your all of the things that are great about you, all of the things that you do that are wonderful, all the things you've accomplished, and you raise up your self-worth and your self-confidence. And then you can seek to understand. Then you want to know more about what's going on with other people so that you can create solutions. And you can find good in virtually everyone in every situation. And then you have great, powerful, strong relationships that lift you up, that allow you to lift up the other person. Nobody's pulling each other down. In other words, the So Good life. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. I hope that this serves you. And I hope it gives you a trigger if you're in that position, in that place of anger and bitterness and divisiveness and labeling and judging quickly, and the stuff going on is getting you down. I hope that it serves you and lifts you back up. If you know somebody that's struggling in these areas right now, and they're wasting time, losing time on the internet, trying to one-up everybody because their self-confidence is shot, and they're labeling and judging, and their relationships are bad, and they're not finding good anywhere, and their energy is sapped, and their desire is sapped, and they're negative all the time, they're not positive. If you know somebody like that, share this with them, please, in the hopes that it will serve them. Thank you. I honor you for trying to get better every day of your life. If you're watching this and reading this, you're looking for something every day. You're looking for tips and tricks and strategies and the edge to get to the next level. And I honor you for that. Share this with somebody if you feel like it will serve them. Thank you again. And until the next time, get out there every day. Discover something new. Learn every day. Reach for your stars, know your dreams, unleash them, and go for it. And live the life that is so good.